for tuning in to Divine Nobodies podcast. How you doing, Jen? Happy pre-Thanksgiving, actually.
Happy pre-Thanksgiving to you.
Pre-Thanksgiving, actually. I think when the audience actually gets a hold of this episode, though, it'll be after Thanksgiving. But you know what? The intention is there.
That's right.
The intention is there. You know what I found out? I found out that turkeys don't actually go gobble. Can you believe that shit?
I mean, they kind of do. They make a sound that I actually got a little sound clip because I didn't want to have to do it on the podcast.
Okay, somebody told me that they sounded more like peacocks.
They do.
And I know exactly what peacocks sound like because I live down here in Pasadena and you got peacocks running all over the freeway.
You want to hear what it sounds like?
Oh, you have a sample?
I'm going to put it up. Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's not like a gobble gobble though.
It's not a gobble gobble.
That sounds like a dinosaur. That sounds like a
Yeah.
group of dinosaurs making a bunch of racket.
Exactly. They do sound like peacocks though.
Yeah, you know those peacocks are crazy down here in Pasadena.
Are they?
Right? Yeah, there was some story a long time ago. I don't know exactly the premise of the story, but somebody let out a couple peacocks here in Pasadena, along with a lot of other things, including parrots, by the way. And they roam. Well, they actually were there at the LA Arboretum right now. I think the story is that they originally had them at the LA Arboretum to just, I guess, be a part of the botanical garden that exists there. And they somehow got out. So now you can see them walking along the side of the freeways. I have a friend that lives across the street. Sometimes see peacocks on his roof in his house.
What?
Yeah.
I have never seen that. I have seen the parrots though. We used to get those little green parrots in our yard.
Really?
Yeah.
And they make a lot of noise too.
They
And
do.
for whatever
They're
reason,
loud.
they come around like 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning and they just make a bunch of racket. But they're cool when you look outside and you see a bunch of wild parrots in the trees. And I have a friend that's a real estate agent. Her name is Jessica. And I helped her one time with this home that she was trying to clear. And she was complaining because she was trying to clean the front yard and keep it clean. But these peacocks, because this was over in Arcadia, because apparently they hang out in Arcadia. So if you guys are in Arcadia, you want to see some free peacocks, go to Arcadia. Anyways, they just drop these massive loads in the yard.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like monstrous sort of dinosaur type of loads. And she just continuously, perpetually had to keep cleaning the front yard because of these peacocks.
Oh my God. Can you imagine that? You're cleaning up after an animal that's not even yours.
Oh, I know. And it's like, you can't really be mad because they're so cool. You know what I mean?
They are so cool. Yeah.
You know, and they have when they have their feathers out and they're just sort of looking at you. It's pretty cool. I imagine, especially if you're not from this area, I see them all the time. And, you know, I still appreciate them being there. It's just a cool little element to add to the community and the environment.
Yeah. The males are really beautiful. The females are not as pretty. Their colors aren't as pretty.
The females are like brown, right?
Yeah, they're brown. Yeah. And they also have albino peacocks. Have you ever seen one of those?
Oh, those are the special ones.
Yeah, they're all white.
I've seen
really
one of
cool
those
looking.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the male peacocks want to get after the white albino peacock, I imagine.
I don't know. I think that they're blind. I'm not
Really?
100% sure. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Well, you know what? We've entered into the realm of Thanksgiving. And I'm grateful for lots of things, Jen. I'm grateful for you, Jen. I'm grateful for all the punny text messages I get, you know, the abundance of laughter at my intentional dad jokes. And, you know, grateful to be able to explore this mysterious and beautifully chaotic world that is the earth alongside of you.
Agreed.
So it's definitely something to be grateful for. And you know what? I'm grateful for my cat. I'm going to share a really quick story before we get into the business today, which we're going to be talking about how to manifest, cultivate gratitude, which is a really, really important practice that we can work into the holiday of Thanksgiving. But something happened with my cat last week, Jen.
What happened?
So last week, my cat, who was about 13, 14 years old, I'm not entirely sure how old she is, but she was a rescue. And 13, 14 years old, that's pretty old when it comes to cats, right? So last week she started, she wasn't feeling well. She started hacking almost like she was wanting to throw up, but nothing would come out. And she's a diabetic. We give her medication, and she's on a very, very strict schedule when it comes to her diet, but she just wasn't feeling very well, right?
Aww.
And I had to wait in order to get an appointment with the vet, but she was doing well enough to just sort of hang out and kind of watch over her. Anyways, a day later, she just stops eating. She just stops eating. She stops drinking. That's obviously a big problem, right? And so we had to wait overnight in order to take her to the vet. And the next day, maybe she started feeling a little better. Like she wasn't hacking as much, but she still wasn't eating. And we've had to try all these different maneuvers in order to get her to do it. And she just wasn't doing it. Anyways, we hear sudden walking in the hallway. And I'm consolidating a really complex story, and I don't want to add too many details because it was a really dramatic experience for me. Right? She started hiding in places I've never seen her hide before, and you know the stories that they hear about that.
That's always a bad sign. Yeah,
Always
if your
a bad
animal
sign.
starts hiding, it's because they're looking for a place to die. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she was still able to walk around, and she was still able to kind of maneuver in different places. So we were watching over her, and then all of a sudden we hear a ruckus in the hallway. And I look, we didn't know exactly what it was, but it was like this sort of like fast scratching. I look in the hallway, and her legs gave out. Her back legs gave out.
No.
So I was
Poor
like,
Binksy.
oh my gosh, yeah. And basically me and my partner, we had to grab her really fast. We had to go like, okay, we're going to go to the vet. We have to go to the vet. We can't keep her here. So we went to the emergency vet. This was like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, went to the first emergency vet. I had her in my arms, and she started seizuring. She was like seizuring in my arms. She was twitching, and I didn't really know if she was alive. It was a really traumatic, really, really difficult situation to move through because this is like your pet. This is like your animal. This is like your
It's like
child.
your child. Yeah.
Yeah. She's been by my side for like the last 13 or 14 years, and she had already conquered death one time already. This would be the second time, right? So she started seizuring, and she started twitching, and she was going in and out of consciousness, and I just kept shaking her. I kept just telling her, like, you need to stay awake. Come on, you got to stay awake. And I just was trying to hold out as much as I can. Anyways, we went to the first vet. They turned us down because they only had one doctor there. So I was like in the car, and we were just trying to figure out what we were going to do. And I just started panicking. I was like, my cat is going to die right here in this car. And then the vet that we went to recommended us to a vet across the way, another 24-hour clinic. And I get out of the car, and I run up to these doors, and it's locked. And I don't know what else to do. So I collapse on the floor, and I'm like on my knees with my cat in my arms, just trying to, keep her awake because she seems to be losing consciousness. And so a minute later, the doors open up, and two, nice nurses came out, grabbed her, ran her inside. And I didn't see her again for, I want to say, 30, 45 minutes. And basically they said that if I had waited maybe another 10 minutes, she would have passed away.
Oh no. Oh my God.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is we found out that her blood sugar was very, very dangerously low. Mm-hmm. And that the vet, our primary vet, may have overprescribed her insulin for her blood. But I think what ended up happening is during the time she stopped eating, she was eating very sparingly. She was still eating, but not very much. And you know about insulin, why. You have to give it.
So you were giving, she was getting her insulin, but she wasn't eating.
She was eating, but she wasn't eating as much.
Oh no.
Right.
Poor thing.
Yeah. So is that mixed in with just old age? But they think that's what it is, but they're not entirely sure. And this is something that we need to still do some tests on. But, they had to keep her overnight, 24 hours later. And then they had her on a catheter, had medication and stuff like that going through her. And she's kind of back to normal now.
Wow.
She survived death a second time.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Have you ever heard of pretty litter?
Oh, yeah. That's the one that kind of tells you how your cat's doing.
Yeah. The litter changes colors whenever they pee if there's something going on, like metabolically. You should probably get that litter for her unless she's super picky and she, doesn't like changes. But we use that litter for our cats. Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about. And it kind of just gives you a graph of kind of how their urinary health is and things like that.
Yeah, of the different colors. Yeah. So if she's like in metabolic acidosis, the litter will turn orange. So you know that something's going on. And if there's blood, it'll turn red. If it's just like normal, it'll be like normal yellow-green.
And they told me, even with the prescribed dose that the vet had recommended, they still thought the dose was high.
Wow.
Yeah, they still thought the dose was high. So this could have been something that had been cultivated over time. Yeah. But they were just saying like, that 2 units that you give her just may be too much. So I'm grateful that my cat is alive.
Huh? Yeah, she's pretty little though.
She is very, she's little.
Petite.
Yeah. Yeah. But she's doing good. They had to like shave different parts of her body, so she looks kind of like a poodle right now because they had to do the IV and stuff like that. But she's doing good, and I'm extremely happy because I had an existential crisis, Jen. I was thinking about what it would have been like to not have her in my life, and that really really hit me during that time. and I was a wreck. You know, Jen, because I was sending
Oh.
Jen text messages. I just was losing my shit.
Oh my God. My heart was so broken for you. I was like, oh, please don't die. I was at home meditating and sending her like Reiki healings. And I was like, stay alive.
That's another thing to be grateful for, Jen. I appreciate that.
Of
And
course.
I think that probably contributed to her getting better. She's actually down here right by my side and everything's going good. And she's back to normal now. She's eating, she's drinking. Everything is good. Another one of those things to be grateful for. She conquered death twice, right? She had a near-death experience.
Yeah,
and
still has 7 lives left.
7 lives. You know what? She went in, she probably saw the other side, talked to her guys, and their guys are like, nope, you need to go back because this guy's going to fucking lose his shit if you leave. And she's like, God damn it. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Or she just may have seen, how much it really, really mattered to me that she was there. And she was like, you know what? I still got some juice. I still got some juice in here.
I got some time.
Yeah. So speaking of all the things to be grateful for, definitely my cat, our families, of course, anybody that's listening, I'm sure everybody's grateful for those things. We wanted to spend some time today and talk about gratitude as it pertains to Thanksgiving, because I think this seems to be a little bit more universal. We're not going to talk about, Native Americans and pilgrims. We're going to be talking about just sort of universal energy that we can all relate to, which is the practice of gratitude. And I think that this is a really, really good topic to cover, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So gratitude is something, and I'm going to kind of tread more into the Buddhist perspective when it comes to how we tackle this. And I think we have a couple lists and things that we can kind of get into. But gratitude, it isn't the first thing that people think about when it comes to practicing spirituality, right? It's easy to lose track of the reason why people practice things like Buddhism or spirituality, because we, in a lot of ways, over-identify with this concept of self-improvement, personal growth, and this idea of getting better, right? But the practice, these practices that these Buddhists engage in, like meditation, prayer, yoga, even these New Age practices like breath work, they don't exist as a way to improve you. They wouldn't necessarily look at it as a type of improving. These things exist as a way to help us become more aware of the subtleties in life that we often miss, right? They help us become more aware of the gift that is living. Because when we're doing meditation, when we're doing breath work, we're becoming a lot more in touch with our bodies, right? We're becoming a lot more in touch with these things that we tend to kind of take for granted in a lot of ways. But the reason why these practices are so important is because they cultivate gratitude, because we appreciate those little things that we do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And spirituality exists as a way to get us to start paying attention to the impact that we make on our world, right? By helping us become more conscious of our behavior, not only externally, but within as well, right? And this is I think a common misconception that happens in spirituality, which is, we practice as a way to achieve some type of result, right? But I think from my perspective, we practice to gain perspective of a lot of things that already exists in our environment. And a lot of these practices are meant to help cultivate a type of presence that allows us to engage with these more natural things, right? Yeah. So we're going to get into, what gratitude does, what the impact that gratitude can make on your life, maybe make you aware of just some maybe principles and some resources that you can kind of take with you on your journey to help you cultivate a lot more gratitude in your life. And then we can share just some principles from the Buddhist perspective and see how the Buddhists take a look at this thing, because as much as, we don't think they practice Thanksgiving, they do something relative to Thanksgiving, but their emphasis is more on gratitude, right?
Right.
Do you have lots of things? If you think of anything or a few things that you're grateful for right now, Jen, what would those things be?
Oh my gosh. I'm grateful for my friendships. I have some amazing people in my life, you being one of them, of course. Oh. And I'm so grateful for my family. I have literally like the best family. I'm obsessed with all of them.
Your Texas family?
So, yeah, my Texas family. And even my in-laws are really wonderful too.
A lot of good Southern food.
Yeah. I got the sweetest text message today from my friends Shayna and Tracy. So we had Friendsgiving in California and I wasn't able to make it. And they sent me a picture of everyone like with sad faces and we're like, oh, we really missed you being here. And I don't know, really warmed my heart. It was really nice.
That's so cool how like Friendsgiving has become a thing. I don't know if that's a millennial thing, but it's one of those things that I became a really integral part of my life as I got older.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, we have the Thanksgiving with our family, and most of those experiences are not with friends. So they create a secondary sort of experience with Friendsgiving. I think is like really, really important. I've had Friendsgiving every single year for many, many years, and it's nice to be able to celebrate and be thankful for the friends that you have.
Absolutely. You know, my family doesn't live here, and Thanksgiving is the most expensive holiday to travel, even more expensive than Christmas. And I don't know
Really?
why. Yes. The flights to Texas are over $1,000. It's insane. So I never go home for Thanksgiving. So what we've done the last like 6 or so years that Jeremy and I have been together, we always go out of town on Thanksgiving. So we'll go somewhere. And this year we're going back to Sedona. So we've been to Sedona a couple of years for Thanksgiving, and it's really nice. Just go camping, hang out, skip the whole big Thanksgiving dinner and just like, connect with nature.
That's an awesome way to spend Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people too, like I don't really care for just sort of like the typical Thanksgiving sort of food, and
Either.
like the stuffing and the turkey stuff
Ugh.
like that. You know what I
I
mean?
hate stuffing.
And
I hate beets. Ugh.
oh, beets.
Yeah.
I'm one of those
Ugh.
people that just likes to create new things because it's really not necessarily about the food unless you're into ritual like that. But, I like to try and find a recipe that I never made before. And this year, Jen, I'm making my world famous vegan meatballs and curry sauce.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
I like that. Eric's world
I do
famous.
like that. I like it.
I'm going to make that for the fam bam, and we're going to have a good time. But, for me, it's just about spending time with family. I'm fortunate enough to have my family live here. So it's one of those things that we do, But,
Absolutely.
yeah, what other things you're grateful for, Jen?
I am grateful that I have a job, especially after COVID and so many people being unemployed and this being a very hard recovery financially for other people. I'm very grateful to have a job. So, yeah. So the three major things, friends, family, and a job. I pretty much have everything that I need. Shelter.
Yeah,
All of the basic necessities.
And it takes a lot to identify those as like being like a really, really like legitimate thing to be grateful for, especially nowadays, because these are just things that seem to always be there. It's so easy for people to lose track of the fact that we have these families and these friends and these, basically it's easy for people to take that for granted, right? Because their egos are always seeking for some sort of emotional, mental, physical, material stimulation that we forget that these simple things are there.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because this is actually on my list of the 10 things of how to practice gratitude. And anytime I'm talking to somebody new about spirituality and manifestation and practicing gratitude, they always say the same thing like, oh, my life's so bad right now. I don't have anything to be grateful for. And I'm like, what? It always blows me away when I hear that. And I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea. Yeah. So, even if your life is in the dumpster, you got laid off from your job, your car broke down, your partner broke up with you, you're about to be evicted from your place, no matter how bad things get, it's think outside of the box and find things to be grateful for. Yeah. So instead of feeling sorry for yourself, right? So start with something like that you take for granted, like running water. I mean, there's lots of places in the world that don't have clean or running water, food to eat, a roof over your head to keep you dry from the rain or, warm from the snow, heat or air conditioning in your home to keep you comfortable so you can sleep at night. Any family members that you have, maybe your best friend that's always listening to your bullshit and all your problems. I mean, there's so many things to be grateful for if you just kind of like start with the things that you take for granted.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised at how many people take those things for granted because you just always think that they're going to be there. My cat's a perfect example. It's like you always assume that this animal is going to be by your side until reality sets in and you realize that, their mortality is a very, very real thing. And one day they may not be there. And all of a sudden, all of these feelings, you stop, you place yourself out of this box of thinking that they're always going to be there and reality sets in. And then you're, in a lot of ways, you open up these sort of floodgates of emotions that, you maybe lost touch with. And there's this Buddhist thing that I read the other day, which says the human incarnation entails 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows. And it actually says this in the Tao Te Ching, right? But with those sorrows, we have the privilege of, sunsets and the tastes of different foods that we like, and
Absolutely.
the, almost unbearable beauty of life all around us, along with those troubles. And life just keeps continuously recreating yourself. And basically what I'm trying to say is that it's so easy for us to think negatively of the challenges that we experience. But the fact that we have these contrasts, the fact that we have those people at our work that piss us off is a really, really beautiful, graceful thing, because those people have contributed to your growth in a lot of ways that you may not be paying attention to.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
And the bad things that happen in your life, it's always really good to remember them and remember where you came from and compared to where you are now, right? So it's setting up that contrast between good and bad, and it helps you build a really solid foundation for gratitude moving forward. Whenever
Yeah.
you think about like, oh, this time last year, X, Y, and Z was happening, and now look how much further I've come.
Right. When we learn from our difficulties, we become grateful for the opportunity to experience them,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I think difficulties and challenging situations, teach us in ways that nothing else can. They test our boundaries, they test our patience. And when you look at each situation as an opportunity for growth and learning, then you'll see that person that irritates you at work. Then you'll see that, unfortunate situation, maybe losing your job, is like a blessing, because I learned the most from the most difficult experiences that I've ever gone through, because those experiences are, some of the only things that have the ability to just sort of break you a certain way, to where you have to start reevaluating and thinking of life in a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a coworker that really pisses me off. Like, I haven't been this triggered by someone professionally ever in my entire career. I mean, I don't know. There must be something there, right? There's something in this person that I don't like in myself,
Uh-huh.
because they have that ability to really trigger me. And when I was working on this episode, one of the things on the gratitude list was to ask 3 questions about relationships in your life. So whether that be with a family member, a friend, a coworker, your child, a partner. And the question was, what have I received from this person? What have I given to this person? And what difficulties have I caused in the relationship with this person? And after asking myself those 3 things and I was able to answer them, I was like, okay, all right, I see what's going on here. You have to be radically honest with yourself, but it really does help to reframe the relationship.
Yeah, you notice how, like, at every job, every career that you've ever been in, at least for me, there's always that one person,
Yes.
right? Life strategically places that one person into your field and into your midst. And those people, and I've experienced this before. I had a coworker, and no matter what it is that I did, she just didn't like me. She just didn't like me. I think it was
Yeah.
just because I was younger and she was older. And, you run into sort of cultural differences when it comes to your work ethic. And she just didn't like me. And so it was so easy for the ego to start, looking negatively at that situation. You hear that voice inside of your head that's just like, fuck that chick. You know what I mean? Fuck that woman. Or this person,
Yeah.
like there's all this negativity that comes, and you have to really check yourself. And that, in retrospect, when I think about it, taught me patience,
Yeah.
right? And that's one of the biggest things that you need, especially in the work environment, is patience.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I'm looking at that in retrospect, I have a lot of gratitude for having worked alongside this person, because she triggered something in myself that I needed to work on, that needed to be healed.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And that,
exactly how I feel about this coworker. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
and it's hard. You have days where you're just not in it. You know what I mean? You have days where you're not in the mood for it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an ongoing thing, right? I worked alongside this woman for like 5 or 6 years, and it was a really arduous struggle. But in the end, when I look back, and because she moved to a different space, I've caught her a few times, and we sort of just look at each other like, you know what? There's this inside knowing of like, I understand why this person was placed into my field, and I
Yeah.
completely understood why the universe brought that into my life, and I just feel so grateful to be able to have gotten that experience. What other experience can do that?
That's
Most
true.
people aren't going to change unless there's some extraordinary set of circumstances that get you to change. Because a lot of
And
people become comfortable. They're comfortable with being who they are. And if nothing happens to where they have to, they're forced to change, then a lot of people have difficulty with transitioning into something else.
Absolutely. And, you have to be compassionate too. And I try to be compassionate with my coworker as well, because I'm like, wow, this person has such a high level of insecurity. Like all of their interactions and their responses come from a place of deep-seated insecurity. And, I have compassion for that, because, we all have our demons.
Right. And the exact same thing with this woman too. I knew for a fact that she was going through really, really difficult times in her life. And that was one of those things I tried not to forget in those moments. And in the same way, I feel like I taught her patience in a lot of ways too, because she couldn't accept the fact that I was as patient as I would, because she wanted me to break.
Yeah.
Right. She wanted me to break. And I think over time it started to frustrate her because she couldn't break me. Right. And so it's interesting how there are two different types of lessons and scenarios happening at one time. And it's the perfect sort of ground for source and spirit to move through your life and teach you these things. So gratitude develops patience, because when we're content with what we have, then we could more easily tap into being patient when it comes to things that would typically make us impatient. Right? We live in a very, very fast-paced environment that's driven by technology. It's driven by the productivity, the sort of like going hype. I guess just the speed in which technology develops. We adapt. Our human bodies and our consciousness adapts to how fast things go, and so it becomes almost like this sense of entitlement for us, because everything around us in our environment allows us to get things instantly. Right? It allows us to get instant results when it comes to things. And because of that, we find it difficult to find ourselves in situations that are a little bit more peaceful. We forget the stillness that we have available inside that can help us cultivate just a better sense of self, because this fast-paced environment can get very tiring on the body and on our health. And, it is also, people with a strong sense of gratitude are more likely to be able to, delay things like gratification, passing on small rewards and things like that. So I think like developing a sense of gratitude can help people chill out and slow down.
While you were talking, I was looking at the word gratitude on my computer, and I'm wondering if this was a combination of two words. And I don't know what that's called whenever you combine two words to make a new word. It's like porta something. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I was thinking gratitude is a combination between being grateful, like grateful, and attitude.
Oh yeah.
Like grateful attitude, gratitude.
That's a perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
How about that?
It's a perspective that you have. And gratitude, like as I was talking about with patience, it's like if you're completely present with what you have and you're grateful for the things that you have, no matter how simple that they are, that will be enough, right? I'm talking about being grateful for being alive, being grateful that you have a roof over your head, that you're able to eat, that you have shelter. If you have all of these things and they mean something to you, then I think that like sets the pace for patience to just naturally enter into your field, because you're not going to look externally for things in order to make you happy. I think that's where patience comes in when it comes to that. Another thing that gratitude does is it cultivates mindfulness, right? It allows us to be aware of the gift of life, right? There's a Zen master named Suzuki Roshi, and he calls this sort of like the beginner's mind. The beginner's mind is to see the world just sort of like really fresh without being lost in our reactions and judgments, and to see it with clarity, right? Because if we can see it with clarity and we're able to acknowledge all the simple things in life, then we're able to respond to the world rather than react to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think most Buddhists, when we think of Buddhists, we think of mindfulness. Mindfulness and gratitude are exactly the same word.
Oh, they totally are. Yeah. Well, I mean, yes. Yeah. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And we were talking about this. Actually, Hebe talked a little bit about this when he was on our podcast about whenever he would work with clients, he would teach them how to be mindful and be present by holding a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and using all the five senses. So you're feeling the warmth of the cup. you're tasting it, you're listening to it brew, you're, what am I leaving out? And you're smelling the aroma, right? So you're using all of your senses to engage in that small pleasure. And, it's the little things in life. If
It's
you
the
are
little
present,
things.
if you're present and actively participating, it helps you become more grateful.
These are things that we tend to take for granted, right?
Yeah.
Things that we tend to take for
Absolutely.
granted. Things that are always there. They're always there all the time, right? And we lose track of those things. We think that they're insignificant because they're not producing us with, I don't know, maybe a dopamine high or some sort of like push from our neurotransmitters. They're not stimulating us in the way that, like 5 cups of coffee do, because these are things that are always, to some extent in our minds, always there. So it's easy to take these things for granted. But the practice of mindfulness and gratitude is being conscious and aware of everything in your field that has helped contribute to where you are right now, right? Gratitude helps us realize how many lives were involved in getting you to where you are. Family, friends, people, the environment, just like you said. Because we're looking at like a quantum mechanics, quantum physics sort of thing, like literally every single person, it could be the person walking down the street right now, is every bit as responsible for you being here as, all the other things in your life that are immediately, impacted by your existence. You know what I mean? And it's really, really important when you practice mindfulness is really about just being present to what's already there and being grateful for just what you have, right? That's what Thanksgiving is about, right? It's just being grateful and thankful for the things that you have.
Absolutely.
And
And don't be afraid to share your gratitude with other people too. You know, if you're feeling it, say it. It's a perfect way to help strengthen your relationship and also to be present and increase your manifestation of abundance with the spoken word.
Yeah, like my family, we have this sort of ritual that I started a few years back. And I tried to do this with other families that I've spent time with, which is like, we sit at the table and we all share what we're grateful for.
Oh,
right?
we do that too. I always cry. Every year I cry.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's always somebody at my family that does, usually my mom, because that's where we get like really into the deep sauce. I've always been one of those people that they consider to be really, really super emotional and deep. So they know I'm going to say something good. They know I'm going to say something good. I'm one of those people that like takes up both sides on the holiday cards.
Oh my gosh. Do you prepare what you're going to say ahead of time? Do you
Sometimes.
think
I
about it?
used to, not so much anymore. I sort of just channel it as I go, but when it comes to like giving gifts to people, like I'll write something, because I'm usually a lot better at writing than I am of just speaking on the fly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try and make it as meaningful as possible.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, so we share. And then, so it wanted to kind of equip you with just some things that you maybe already practice. How can we cultivate gratitude through practice? And these may be things you already do, like I said, but try and approach it with this type of perspective, right? Because developing and committing to a practice that you can sustain and that can help you, provide you with a sense of gratitude, I feel like is important. So one of these things is closed eye meditation, right? Closed eye meditation, which is something we probably all do, helps us connect more with the gratitude of our own silence and stillness, right? This allows us to be grateful for the fact that we have this peace inside that we can access anytime.
Yeah.
Right? That stillness and even just being with yourself, spending time with yourself. The practice of closed eye meditation allows us to be grateful for the fact that if life is crazy outside, we can retreat within for 5-10 minutes out of the day or even all day long if we want to. I think that will help to cultivate a sense of just being grateful for existing,
I love it.
Yeah. And then breathing. Breathing is another practice. Breathing helps us connect more with the gratitude of being alive. And this is one of those things. This is a perfect example of what we're talking about, Jen. We breathe every single day, all day, every single day. But do you think of how many people forget about the fact that they're breathing? Because it's always there. It's something that we do. But if we really take a moment and think about how important breathing is, it is the reason why you're alive right now.
Absolutely. Ask
Like
someone who has lung disease about breathing, and it's something they'll never take for granted.
Oh yeah. And that's another thing that you can sit with yourself. You can do, you can do the crazy, holotropic breathing and stuff like that. But just if you can take a moment and just be with your breath, right? And just acknowledge the fact that it's there. I feel like that that can really, really help cultivate gratitude, because that thing is working in collaboration with you all day, every single day. And it helps keep you alive. And it doesn't ask for anything, maybe except food, right? Because you got to eat food, but it doesn't ask for anything. It's just there watching you beat your own ass, watching you in all your crazy adventures. And in all that time, your breath is still there, being like, what's up? I'm here, you know? And then walking.
Yeah, it's the first thing that you're born with and the last thing that you die with.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also breath is the main contributor to the fact that we're even able to communicate right now, right? Without the breath, moving and dancing with, you know, vibration, it couldn't happen. You know, imagine what it would be like to not be able to converse. I mean, unless we're evolved into the 5D gen and we're able to telepathically communicate, but the vibration that we have and the breath work in collaboration in order for us to be able to communicate anything.
Yeah. This, I don't know why I thought of this, but I was talking to my friend Damien about telepathic communication and time travel and aliens and all the things. And I was like, yeah, you know, I think that aliens are just like what humans are evolving into. Yeah. They have small mouths because they communicate telepathically. They stop, you know, using their voices. Their arms are thin because they're not doing physical work anymore. Robots will have taken over all of the physical labor jobs. And, you know, their heads are larger because, you know, they're using more of their brain and they're pale, right? And different colors from not being outdoors as much, being in front of screens and, you know, all of that. And just talking about like the physical differences totally blew his mind. He was like, oh my God, I never thought about that. That makes so much sense.
Yeah,
like,
it almost seems like there's less of an emphasis on an exterior sort of perspective of people. Like, we're not dealing with fashion, we're not dealing with materialistic sort of endeavors. Like, they have probably evolved to the extent where a lot of their communication or correspondence happens through spirit. It happens through, like you say, telepathy. And I was thinking about, we had the last episode about twin flames and soulmates, and we were talking about Greek mythology, where at the beginning, prior to human beings being created, they were considered androgynous, right? Until, you know, Zeus split them into two, right? And then that's when the sort of birth of, you know, the sexes kind of came into play, like male and female. And I feel like with aliens, it's very much the same thing. As we evolve, we start becoming more androgynous. You notice, like, aliens don't have reproductive organs either.
Right.
You know, maybe they've mastered something where they're able to live forever, or they're able to reproduce in a different way. But I completely agree. Like, their mouths are really small because they're not having to speak, you know? And when it comes to evolution, if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
You lose it. Yeah. I mean, it's just like really basic principles of evolution. So,
yeah. Anyway. We're going to be aliens. We're on the way. We're almost there. Maybe in like 5-10 years. That's what Elon Musk says, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, especially if that whole Neuralink thing catches on.
Oh, yeah.
Then, you know.
I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about that, but that's an entirely different conversation. So
that's a whole nother podcast. Let's get back to gratitude.
All right. So walking meditation, right? Walking meditation is another way that we can cultivate gratitude, because it helps us connect more with the gratitude of connection with life, right? When we practice cultivating gratitude through, you know, rituals and things like that, we can rewire our brain to appreciate the simple yet powerful elements of being alive. And the one beautiful thing about walking meditation is it allows you to be grateful for what's around you. So if you're walking and you're just observing what's around you, you'll see, wow, look at this beautiful aloe vera plant. Look at these monsteras. Look at these pathos, right? Look at this sunset that literally is free every single day.
Yeah.
And it's never the same. It's always different. All these things are in our present moment that are there every single day, gracing us with this sort of beautiful, beautiful gift of just life blossoming all around you. And walking meditation can help you get in contact with these things that are already there. And as long as when you start, you know, seeing these things and observing them, and even just witnessing, I've gotten into this thing with plants, Jen. I know that you have too. But there's something so satisfying about watching a plant grow that you've helped.
Yes.
That you're like, yes. You know?
I love it. Yeah. It's the best.
Yeah. I started propagating plants. I got this little tiny little snippet of a monstera from my brother-in-law. right? He gave it to me. I didn't really think much of it. He's like, yeah, plant this. And I was like, okay, this is the first time I had tried to propagate a plant. This is a long time ago. I put it in this sort of propagation station with some water, and it started to root. And I was like, holy shit.
Oh my gosh.
And then I potted it into some soil, and now it is like literally thriving.
Oh, I
And
love it.
there's just some connection that I have with these plants, knowing the power that human beings have to create, right?
Yeah.
Like the power that we have is so, it's so powerful when you actually apply it to something that can give you sort of like a noticeable type of return like plants do.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Plants are amazing. And, I think humans as a species are very forgetful. And, life gets busy. We forget about the loved ones in our life. We forget about the small things. And we just start to kind of lack awareness. So, just like you were saying, when you're, take a walk and walking around and doing a walking meditation, those visual reminders those thoughts like actually do trigger gratitude during that time. So,
It's true.
the best visual reminders, I think, are other people.
Oh, for sure. And a lot of people, especially in our fast-paced society, are looking for some way to assuage the pain of their anxiety that they feel, right? They're looking for some way to sort of resolve the maybe trauma that they're recovering from being alive, just having gone through different levels of atrocities, but also maybe the stress that they feel at their work. And they don't automatically realize that they have all of the right resources and tools in their environment that can help bring them back to baseline, right? Like nature,
Right.
like watching a sunset, like being, grateful for the fact that you have people in your life, like your family, that love you, right? Because when we lack this practice, these practices that we're talking about, then we can fall victim to things like desires and wants and addictions, because a lot of these things are driven by the ego. When our ego isn't checked, the ego wants to get shit done, right? It wants to be productive, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But when we start over-identifying with this feeling of having to be productive, but also experiencing all this crazy anxiety because we don't feel like we're popular enough, we're sexy enough, or we're beautiful enough,
Right.
that really, really takes a toll on the body. And if a solution to your anxiety is what you seek, these simple sort of practices exist to bring you back down to baseline, But the crazy thing is they're so simple and they're so practical that a lot of people don't even realize that they work. Somebody asks you to just sit there and not move and just sort of like think or sit down and just be present. It's like, oh, well, what am I going to get from that? They want it to instantly impact them in the exact way that they want it to, right? It's almost like you don't trust the body to bring you back down if you need it to, but it will if you trust it. If you trust the body and you trust your environment, it will bring you back down to peace.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Another way that we could practice gratitude is through affirmations, which is
I like this. Yeah.
communicating,
Affirmations
right?
are good.
So we often think about everything that can go wrong in any given situation. This is, I think, a wildly sort of accepted form of programming. We are conditioned in a lot of ways to think about all the things we don't have, all the things that can go wrong in any scenario, right? But maybe try switching your perception. This is what they do in Buddhism. And it's so subtle and it's so practical, but it totally works. Instead, remind yourself of everything that is going right in your life, right? Everything that is going right in your life. How about rewiring your brain, right? To start introspecting about all the things that have gone right. And when people go into this habitual pattern of thinking back at memories and somehow they only look at the negative aspects of them. But how about like looking into your past and picking out different areas of your life that went right, you know? The different areas of your life.
So much goes right. Yeah, absolutely. And making that promise to yourself to actually practice gratitude. Anytime you make an oath to yourself to perform any type of behavior, it increases the likelihood of that action actually coming to fruition, right?
Yeah.
So, there's something about the written word. So write down your commitments and your goals, and you're much more likely to achieve them.
That's true. And, you hear this a lot. Instead of saying, you can rewire your brain just off of saying these affirmations out loud that you typically don't say. And these can become, a pattern of behavior, and then these can become a part of your personality. I think Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this too, where it's like at the beginning, it becomes a habit, right? And then it becomes a behavior. And after it becomes a behavior, it becomes a part of you. So if you say, instead of, I have to do this today, you can say, I get to do this today.
I get to do this. Yeah.
Right? And that's like a popular one that we hear all the time. But if you say this enough, if you say, well, you know what, I have the opportunity and the privilege to get up and go to work and be able to make an impact on my world, that I think is huge. I think that can create a really, really big impact in your life, right? Because we have to be really careful of how we talk to ourselves because our spirit is listening to your ego at all times, right? If you cannot distinguish the difference, then you can fall victim to believing what it says. This is the reason why it's really important to practice some level of distance from your ego, which is awareness, right? There's awareness and then there's ego. And if you are over-identified with your ego and you don't realize that spirit is there, the crazy shit that your ego says to you on a daily basis, you'll believe it. You'll believe everything that the ego tells you. And more often than not, because the ego is driven by desire, you're going to be let down a lot of the time. And then the ego is going to start talking negatively and you're going to identify that as a tangible reality for you. It's not going to make you feel very good. So practicing awareness of the things the ego says, I think is really, really important. Be really careful of the things that you say because your spirit is listening to your ego.
Absolutely. I can't remember who said this quote, and you probably will because it's a pretty famous one. It's the watch your thoughts because they become words, watch your words because they become actions, watch your actions because they become habits, and then watch your habits because they become character, and your character becomes your destiny.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like another way of what Joe Dispenza talks about, right? Like we learn from our shared world and our collective environment. All of our personalities, everything that we are is a product of our environment. The people that we talk to that are reflecting your personality back at you, when you surround yourself with good people, you will think of yourself as a good person. If you surround yourself with negative people, you'll start after a while to feel like you are a negative person, right? So, our environment shapes who we are very much so. That's what, cultivates and creates this ego that we have.
Absolutely. My
So
grandma says, if you sleep with dogs, you'll get fleas.
Yeah. And that shit's hard to get out.
Same thing. Yeah.
That shit's hard to get out. Yeah. So I would say, take a moment and review all the memories of your life to find out what areas that have taught you the most important lessons. Find yourself amongst, all those different traumas and different things that you've gone through in your life. And, think of the way that you speak to yourself and, just maybe shift your perspective a little bit. Take a moment to contemplate all that you have to be grateful for. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at how many people don't do this. Instead we contemplate all the things that we don't have.
And then that puts you in, that puts your mind in a place of lack. And anytime you're operating from a place of lack, all that does is bring more negativity and more bad things into your life. So if you're operating from a place of gratitude, that brings abundance. So, things you just start manifesting in a completely different way.
Because you're able to
by changing one thing, not thinking about the negative and focusing on the positive.
Yeah.
That's it.
If what you have in your life is enough through the practice of, gratitude, which is like you're happy that you're alive, you're happy you're on this journey, then you could so easily drop into the creative space and create and build the life that you want in a much more cohesive and peaceful way without all the negativity that comes from the ego. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like what you're talking about is almost like manifestation, right? Like you can't manifest from a place of lack.
Nope.
Right? You can't manifest from that place of negativity. So what place do you manifest
but you
from?
just manifest negative things.
Yeah.
You manifest more strife, more hard times,
Yeah. So if you manifest from that place of, I already have what I need, I'm completely happy. So if I don't get this other thing, that's totally okay. Because you know what? I'm still here. I still got this life that I have, and that's enough. And I feel like if you're operating from that place, you're more than likely going to be able to create and build the life that you want without there being the pressure, without there being the pressure, So gratitude, there's also meaningful action that we can kind of engage in when it comes to this thing. Meaningful action cultivates gratitude, right? It's like, and there are different practices. So meaningful action cultivates gratitude. And this is like shining your light into the mirror of another soul and seeing the direct reflection of your love being shown back to you, right? It shows that the simple gesture of love can make a strong impact. And it helps us realize how powerful we are when we're being authentic to ourselves and when we give love to others. So meaningful action could be cooking for others, right?
Smiling,
Smiling,
saying thank you,
volunteering, volunteering your time for something,
yeah.
being kind, just like you said, helping others. And I think these have a direct sort of result that we're given back. Like you're able to give something that is loving, has a loving intention. And more often than not, we'll get a loving sort of energy back.
Yeah. With just really simple actions. I mean, to smile at another person, maybe that person was having a really bad day and nobody has smiled at them all day. And that gesture, was able to lift their spirits.
But it's really important not to do it with the expectation of getting something back.
Right.
I think the reason why these sort of meaningful actions come into play is because it's coming from a place of contentment with just being alive and being grateful for the things that you have. So if you're grateful for the things that you have and you're content with your life, you'll naturally fall into this natural happiness and love for yourself and your life, and you'll just naturally do good things for other people, right? You don't want to just look at this as instructions on how to get something from somebody else. Like, don't just be good to somebody in order to expect, somebody to reciprocate that. You want it to come from a pure place,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You want it to be authentic.
Yeah. So I have some, now that we were talking a little bit about the sort of Buddhist perspective. I have seven, these are actual lessons, Jen. I think these are really important to bring over. These are 7 Buddhist lessons in gratitude.
All right. Let's hear them.
Right. We'll go over them really quickly. And if you guys want to take note, I think this was really powerful. It's very practical, of course, but I think this would be really important to share. One is be grateful for nothing. Right.
I like that.
Nothing happened. You didn't lose your job. You didn't get cheated on. You didn't die, right? When's the last time that you took the time out to be grateful because nothing happened?
That's so true. I've actually never been grateful that nothing happened.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it in that way.
Yeah, because we're always looking for something to happen.
Yeah.
Right? We're always looking for something unusual, something fucking extravagant, something to blow our fucking minds.
Right.
Right? And those things can sometimes give you the gratification that you want, but we don't have as much control over our world as we think in most cases. And so the one thing that we can fall back on is being grateful that today or tomorrow or whatever day that you happen to be in, that nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Right?
I love that. Yeah,
So,
I like it.
Yeah, the first one is be grateful for nothing.
And
be grateful for nothing.
I have another piece of advice, and this actually came from my childhood best friend's mom. And she said, if you don't know what to do, just don't do anything at all. Things have a way of just working themselves out.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And that's kind of along the lines of like being grateful for nothing.
Yeah. And that is also a trusting of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have to acknowledge to some extent that there are just some things in life that we don't have control over.
Right.
And we may think that we have control over these things because in our mind, we think that we can somehow manipulate our environment in order to get the result that we want. In some cases we can, but when it comes to those like really difficult, challenging situations, I think it's really important to trust the universe and give it away to the universe, because it's either that or you drive yourself insane trying to figure out this issue. At some point, you just have to throw up your hands and be like, I surrender this to the universe and, hope for the best.
I know all about that. About that lately. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You've had to do a lot of that this year, Jen. So with your job at Field Trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a second part of this, Jen, is make gratitude your central practice. I think we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but we should be especially grateful for having to deal with annoying people and difficult situations, because without them, how could we practice patience, exertion, mindfulness, loving kindness, or compassion? It is by dealing with these challenges that we grow and develop. So we should be grateful. Next time you see that coworker at work by the water fountain, next time your barista at Starbucks spells your name wrong, like just look at them and be like, you know what? I'm happy that you exist, because this contrast has to exist in order to help me awaken, right? Mm-hmm. It has to exist in order to get me to kind of learn a little bit about this life thing that we're in, right? Because there's not a whole lot of other experiences that have the ability to get us to change. So be grateful for those irritating people that are in your life.
You know, and I thought about this too, that we didn't really talk about was journaling, and like how that can help you with those annoying people that you work with, to journal and kind of like let out those anxiety and that angst. But also to write down the ordinary events and the people that you value and the small like wins in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something about the written word, you know?
Oh yeah.
I know I've said that multiple times in this podcast, but it's true.
It is true. It's exactly the same thing as speaking something into existence.
Right.
You know, you're using that same sort of contemplation power in your brain in order to communicate something. You're just doing it through your hands. Mm-hmm. You're communicating through your hands. And, you know, you have a visual sort of visual stimulation when it comes to this language. You're able to see it in the same way that you're able to hear your own voice. You know, when I talk about like making gratitude your central practice, I think many people believe that a Buddhist's main practice is to meditate, to pray, to achieve a set of accomplishments related to, let's just say, enlightenment. But I think the central focus of Buddhism is gratitude. So to be grateful for what you have, just like I said, and to create a shift in your perspective to, acknowledge all of the beauty that life has to give to us. So the next one, we're on the fourth one, is be highly responsive to the kindness that you receive. So the sad truth is that kindness that we received is seldomly creates lingering feelings of gratitude. And Buddha actually talked about this 2,600 years ago when he said, quote, "These two people are hard to find in the world." Which two? Question mark. The one who is first to do a kindness and the one who is grateful and thankful for a kindness done. Right? So Buddha said that. He didn't proclaim this in a negative way. He was acknowledging that these two were rare, and that we have an opportunity to be these special and rare people, right? And we do. We have the opportunity to be these two people, one who is the first to do a kindness and the one who is grateful and thankful for a kindness done. And if we want to be one of those rare people, then we can become a beacon of light to other people in our world to help assist them in awakening, help assist them with enlightenment. So the next one is look for the silver lining. Look for the silver lining, which is train yourself to see a positive in the presence of many negatives, right? Then gratitude will emerge from even the most challenging of circumstances. We can always find a positive in each situation, right?
That's right.
And there's this
a
Buddhist
grateful heart is a magnet for miracles.
Yeah. Yeah. Grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. I like that. There's this Buddhist fable about a monk who's walking in the forest. I thought this was really interesting. I want to know what your perspective about it is, because I'm looking at this from a Western perspective, but I can understand the wisdom that's in here. So there's this like monk that's walking in the forest, and he sees a lion. He sees a mountain lion, right? He gets scared, and his mountain lion, he's running away from this mountain lion, and the mountain lion chases him off of this cliff, right? So this monk, he jumps off of the cliff, and he's able to grab a hold of a vine, right? He's able to grab a hold of the vine. I can imagine this sort of cinematic scenario in my mind. I think we've seen movies where this happens. Anyways, he's grabbed a hold of a vine, and he's hanging from the vine. So he's looking below, and he sees a bear below, right? And he looks up, and he sees the mountain lion above. And then he sees two mice appear from the cliff and start chewing away at the vine.
Uh-oh. That's a bad day.
While dangling from this vine, the man sees a fresh strawberry growing from the vine, and then smiles because the strawberry is so delicious. Right? This is a Buddhist fable, right? And the whole reason behind this story is that in any negative, shitty situation, you can always find something to appreciate.
Yeah, I like
right?
it. Yeah.
And I love the story of that, but that's a shitty situation to be in.
That sucks, yeah.
I don't know how I would feel if I was hanging from a vine, there was a lion up there, a bear at my feet, two mice chewing away at the vine, and then a fucking strawberry.
Strawberries are delicious, though.
Yeah, they are delicious. But can you imagine them? Can you imagine them hanging from the vine and just being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Oh, this strawberry is delicious. What is this? What is that, a strawberry?
I mean, the other part of this, too, is strawberries grow in the dirt. So how is there a strawberry on the vine?
It's a fable, Jen. It's a story.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but you know what? That is another teaching then. Miracles can happen.
Miracles can happen. There you go.
Miracles can happen, right? And how long does it really take for mice to chew through a vine? I don't know. It seems far-fetched because all of these things are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
When's the last time you went on a hike and you saw a bear, a lion, and 2 mice at the same time?
That's true.
You know what I mean?
And a fucking strawberry growing from a vine, hanging from a tree. I mean, there's some magic happening here.
And I can feel my ego coming in and being like, no, I don't care what way you want to swing it. That situation sucks. There's no positive to come out of that, right? But
agreed.
But if we're being grateful for what we have and we're being grateful for everything in life, then we can be grateful for the strawberry.
Agreed.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was meant to be that literal, but I get the premise of the story. You can be in a tough situation and you can find some strawberries. Things will be good. Yeah. So the second to the last one is expanding your mindfulness. If we were to create a list of what we were grateful for, how long would the list be? Would it be 20 pages or would it be 1,500 pages? The length of our list is dependent on the level to which we are mindful of all areas of our life. Mm-hmm. Does your list include simple things like being alive, breathing, food, shelter? And I think we tend to forget about these things when we allow our egos and desires to take over our lives, right? So if we're able to remember all the little things we have to be grateful for, we can naturally become more appreciative and mindful. Mindfulness,
and I think that's a good place to start. If you're struggling with thinking about things that you're grateful for, start with the things that you take for granted and then go from there. Yeah. And it's funny whenever you, and this happens to me, right? When I'm like feeling like a little blocked or stuck, and I'll start saying those things or writing them down. And then the floodgates open of all these other things. And then I can barely keep up, with all the things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah. It's like, and I feel like this is true in a lot of ways, because it's like, if you ask somebody, maybe you're in like a team building exercise at your work and they're like, okay, write down a list of everything that you'd be grateful for. I mean, maybe if they had the time, they'd have the time to write down 500,000 things. But I think most people's list would be a lot smaller than we think. And most of those lists wouldn't include all of the simple things,
Yeah.
They wouldn't say, oh, I'm grateful for the plants that I have in my front yard. I'm grateful for, the food that I ate yesterday. I'm grateful for the fact that I have legs. I'm grateful for the fact that I can smell things and taste things and hear things. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can't imagine a lot of people's lists including that. I mean, if they do, that's great. But I think when it says expand your mindfulness, is deepen your practice to be fully aware and present to what's in front of you and all around you, right?
Yeah, I was looking for the title of this book, but I couldn't find it. I ordered it a couple years ago on a suggestion from my friend Elise, and it's the 30-day gratitude challenge. So this book has it's like a workbook pretty much, and every day it asks you different questions to help prompt, thinking about the things that you're grateful for. And at the end of the 30 days, it's supposed to make you a significantly happier human. And so I ordered the book for both Jeremy and myself, and we did it. We didn't make it the full 30 days. We made it like 21 days.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but still, it's so true, right? Whenever you're really focusing on every single night before you go to bed or every morning whenever you wake up on the things that you're grateful for, it really does make you happier.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling depressed and the holidays are here, got a little seasonal depression, maybe some COVID depression, whatever, try this exercise. I think it'll help. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we went up to somebody and we're like, okay, you're grateful for just being alive. And they just respond with like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You know what? That's true. I have fucking 5 fingers on my hand. You know what? Sometimes I'll look at my hands. Sometimes I'll get caught looking at my hands. Right? I've been caught looking at my hands at work, staring at my hand at work. I've been caught just staring at my hands. And people ask me, like, what are you doing staring at your hand? Because it is fucking insane that there is this divine creator out there, some force out there that designed this hand, right? This isn't just anything. This thing has the ability to grab things, to do all this crazy shit. Like it had to have been designed specifically for a purpose. And I'm always just so grateful for the fact that I have hands, grateful for the fact that I'm able to just walk down the street.
Look at my hands. I have like really witchy hands.
You do?
I have like old lady witch hands. Yeah. I'm like very veiny with long fingers.
If you point your finger, will like electricity come out of it?
Yeah, sometimes.
Like, right? Zapping some shit. Yeah. So this is just about like deepening your practice to include what's in your moment. I think this could also help cultivate more presence. It allows you to be more present, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that there's some area in the house that people have in the homes that they live that they forget exists, you know? Like I've looked at certain areas in like my room or my house or my apartment and I'm just like, whoa, shit. Sometimes I forget that I have a plant over there, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget that I have like this shelf over in the corner, you know? Like it's so easy to forget everything that we have. So I think the practice of being more present really, really helps us, you know, see our environments a different way.
Until you have to move. And then,
yeah. And then you realize how much shit you
then
have.
you realize how much shit you have. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then your list becomes a lot higher of all the things that you have to be grateful for. You're like, I'm grateful for all the crazy shit I have in my garage right now.
Right.
Yeah. So when they end this out, Jen, there is a prayer. Believe it or not, there is a prayer that Buddhists recite with each other during Thanksgiving holidays.
Well, let's hear it.
Right? And we'll end it. We'll end it with this prayer, something that you guys can all keep in mind. And this doesn't even have to just be for Thanksgiving. This is just a gratitude prayer.
Okay.
Right? And it says, with gratitude, I remember, and I'm going to start this over. I totally started this the wrong way. Okay, ready? With gratitude, I remember the care and labor of 1,000 generations of elders and ancestors who came before me. I offer my gratitude for the safety and well-being I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the blessing of this earth I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the measure of health I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the family and friends I've been given. I offer my gratitude for the community I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the teachings and lessons I have been given. And I offer my gratitude for this life I have been given. Right?
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And the one thing that I love about this Buddhist philosophy is that these are all very simple things. Mm-hmm. But they're so powerful. They mean something different to them. And Buddhism, this is a practice that's, you know, stretched thousands and thousands of years, and they get it right. They get it right because they understand the power is in the simplicity. You know, the power is in the acceptance and just the appreciation of being alive, right? And in this prayer, it talks about a lot of the things that we talked about in this episode. Just being grateful for health, family, friends, and just being alive. And your cat.
Yeah. And Sancho.
You know?
He
Sancho.
made it another, he's going to make it one more Thanksgiving. I can't believe it.
And that dog's come a long way, Jen.
Oh, he has.
Yeah.
Yes, he has.
Like that dog is your spirit animal and Binks is my spirit animal. And you know what? We have a lot more years to come with the animals.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they both conquered death. They had that option. You probably at some point looked into their eyes and they were, and they saw you. They saw how much they mean to you. And they were like, you know what? I'm going to stick around for you.
I'm going to hang out. Yeah.
I'm going to hang out. So like, I could go, but I'm going to hang out with you just a little longer. You know? Yeah. So that was a nice one, Jen. I hope everybody has a really, really nice Thanksgiving. Hope you have a nice Thanksgiving, Jen.
Oh, thank you. I hope you do as well.
Yeah, me too. And it's going to be nice to be able to see the family and be able to visit with them. I'm going to try and practice. I'm going to practice gratitude. Everything that we talked about today. I may even say this Buddhist prayer during our family dinner.
You should. I was actually going to make that suggestion.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be really, really cool. Really, really cool. So everybody out there, thank you for tuning in to Divine Nobodies podcast. I hope you guys all have a really wonderful Thanksgiving. When you see your family, when you see your friends, just maybe say thank you. Just they might think it's weird. Like you go up to your family, and you're like, hey, you know what, Mike? You know what, Travis? You know what, Chad? Thank you, Chad, for being Chad, right? And they're gonna be like, what's that for? And you'd be like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm just saying thank you. And they're gonna be like, thank you, right? Yep. Always good times. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in to Divine Nobodies podcast. You can. If you can like and subscribe to our episodes, that'd be really, really amazing. You can leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. You can also reach out to us at, Divine Nobodies podcast at divinenobodies@gmail.com. And if you go into the description of the episode, you could actually find the YouTube. If you guys are into watching long format video episodes of podcasts, go ahead and like and subscribe. You can see our videos there. And if you guys have any questions, you can also reach out to us on Instagram. And we'd love to hear from you. And also follow us on Instagram. We post just some daily content there and some videos. And thank you guys again. And happy Thanksgiving to all. I think that's it, right, Jen?
That's it.
All right. Namaste, friends.
Namaste.